There's a program that we use very, very frequently in our center to bridge from doing sensory processing as OTs, the language processing as speech pathologists, that going through developmental stages. And then there's a bridging program that we use to mold these different areas together in order to prepare for the process of reading. This program is called Neuroalign. It has gone through several revisions since I've gotten to know the owner. It's a program that pristinely brings together a confluence of neural networks to support the process of specifically reading decoding. Reading decoding is more about how I'm seeing something and then I'm sounding it out in my brain. So my mind's eye is taking the wording or the letters that I'm seeing, adding it together so that my sounding out can happen and I can decode efficiently. And researchers like Keith Rayner has said that in a good reader, they're basically reading about maybe 11 to 18 characters at a time with one saccadic eye jump. Then both eyes have to fixate at that point. And on that fixation, within 5 to 20 milliseconds, the phonics kicks in. So there's a timing between the auditory and the visual system that we need in order to decode efficiently. I think that there's so much research that we still need to do in order to get to the better and better and better understanding of reading decoding. But that was important research for me, especially because as an occupational therapist, I was doing sensory integration work. I was doing pre and post SIP testing at the time, and I was seeing how beautifully the sensory systems was actually doing and how the developmental building blocks was getting into place. But some kids would just take so much longer to transition from that beautiful sensory place into the physical act of reading decoding. That was baffling to me. And I was wondering, what on earth am I missing? Why can't we get them to reading? And a lot of research later and different trainings, my understanding about reading proficiency grew. And I realized so much now how developmental reading is. When we look at Hebb's axiom in terms of neuroplasticity, nervous systems that fires together, wires together. Fires together, wires together. There's a connection, a connectivity that we need. And the brain is plastic till the day that we pass away. So we're malleable. We can always change. It doesn't age out. We have gotten adults over the age of 40 and 50 to read. It's a beautiful place, right? Does it mean that it's perfect? No. But much more success than what they've experienced in their lives before. So this is what I want us to think about when you think about a computerized program such as Neuroalign, is that it's built on neuroplasticity principles, that you're basically working the visual system, you're pairing up the auditory sound to the visual system, and you're using gameplays. Things that's more motivating for kids, kids computer games. What more can I say? So this computerized program that kids do supports all of these different functions together. It is beautifully worked out to the point of every single part almost of the visual system is involved in the program. There's background, foreground, there's things moving across, so you only see half of a word. And you know that visual closure is one of the biggest predictors for reading fluency, because a beginning reader is looking at each letter, but a mature reader is only looking at parts of letters and the brain is closing them, right? And so there's visual closure involved in the program, there's visual background, foreground involved in the program. It is just, like the teenager would say, cool. And I like the coolness of the program because it really does make my job easier, because I cannot ask the child to work with me at the pace that a computer can do, and to increase the speed gradually over the sessions to the millisecond, microsecond place that you have to do in reading. That is not something I can humanly model. I cannot impute that into the child. So I can use timing programs to get to millisecond motor coordination, bridging that into the microsecond place that we need to get to in order to do so many multiple functions at the same time. That's a hard call, especially when we can't even see what's happening in the brain. I would love, love, love it if we could purchase a neuroimaging machine and make it worth our while to do pre and post on neuroimaging machines, because the changes that we see by adding and combining different programs to get to the place of proficiency is profound in many ways. And Neuroalign is one of the programs we use, not the only one, but one of them. So you want to think about neural plasticity, you want to think about intensity, you want to think about frequency. A beginning reader is reading with a parietal lobe, right? When can I say occipital parietal? You're seeing and you're sounding out, right? And you're getting that sensory motor cortex involved. But a mature reader is actually doing an occipital parietal temporal pathway. It's much more fluent, much more timed, much more about reading rate and reading accuracy with reading fluency, right? And so that's the networks that you want to put in place in order to get sufficient speed. And if we have good decoding skill, then I can leave my working memory to focus on reading comprehension, where I need to understand what I'm reading, otherwise what's the point of reading? Many families will say to me, Maude, decoding is not the issue. My child can decode, but they can't comprehend what they're reading. And I say, do they often ask you to repeat things that you're saying? No. Do they watch the same movies you do and ask what the plot is? No. So they can understand everything except when they're reading themselves, even when you're reading to them. Yeah, it's only when they're reading themselves. I'm not saying it is, but I would look much closer at decoding if it's truly as efficient as it needs to be and not eating up available working memory so that comprehension suffers. Just a thought. This is what you want to work on. So the cognitive training is the first phase of the program. There's two phases, and the cognitive training is the computer-based training. That's a 15-hour program of 1 hour each time. You can do it 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. You're doing it mostly at home. You can do it at a center, but really there's an e-clinic involved that the therapist can access to see how the client is doing. So really you can do it at home most of the time. So you can use it anywhere and connect it to your trainer, to your coach. So and then also for school systems, it's beautiful because you can use one system over across multiple computers, right? Once you have access to it. The second phase is reading exercises. And so that is a period of 10 weeks where they're doing 50 sessions in total, where they are doing 15 to 30 minutes of exercises, also computer-based, depending on their level of what they're working on. And they can do it all at home. There are speed reading tests involved to see the increase in speed reading. Very, very lovely. And they have different levels. There's a junior level for 5 to 7, where you basically getting adjusted to the phonics symbol, the simple sound association. And then you have P1, P2, P3, P4. P1 starts around about 8 years old, give or take on the skill level, right? But P2, 9 to 13, P3, 12 to 17, and P4, 18 and over. I have to look because I don't always go by the ages. It's for me, I go by profile. And so if I see a child, I need to bump up a certain level. Sometimes the kid's actually reading beautifully, but I'm doing the program just for visual skill because I still have a visual skill difficulty in other areas, like in handwriting. So then I would still do the program, even though the reading may be absolutely fine and nobody's worried about it. But the visual component of the program is so strong that I can definitely need it. I sometimes do that just for executive functioning because the working memory component of some of the activities is so awesome. There was a research study done where they analyzed the speed reading data, and students who completed the speed reading who completed that piece read 50% more words in 10 weeks than kids who didn't do the speed reading. I really, truly enjoy seeing the results of it in many different shapes, not only reading. So hopefully that was helpful to all of you, and I will see you next time.